Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. Welcome, my friend, into a new month, into the year of 2026. And currently, we are in February 2026. And the spiritual theme of the month is immortality. 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 What does immortality mean to you in terms of the book dictionary point of view? How would you define immortality? And what experience do you have related to the word immortality? So, I'll take a crack at it. The definition of immortality, there's many definitions of many words, right? But for immortality is the ability to live forever. And the experience I've had personally related to that word immortality, I think about my time when I go to the annual retreat called the International Regrouping. And it happens year to year, like in late winter and transitioning to springtime. So like basically, late February, early March. And it's usually from location to location. But anyway, to get into what the experience behind it, for me, when I've gone to IR in the past, and I've gone to several, usually it's been like I've gone there for like a week. It'll be like a week or a 2-week program, but I typically go for an entire week. But it's amazing how that entire week can feel like a lifetime. But it can also feel very short. Like I remember like on the last days, I'd feel like, wow, it was just yesterday. I feel like I just started. And so to me, my sense of the experience with immortality is like I relate it to time, where I feel like sometimes 10 years can feel like yesterday, or sometimes a day can feel like forever. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but just this losing the track of time, and it's just where it doesn't feel like it makes sense. But I think that feeling in itself is really indicative of just what it means to be eternal, because it to be eternal goes beyond timelessness. And now let me go ahead and get into the reading here. And we're going to go dive into one of the sub key keywords, divine. Immortality is energy. Being divine is putting it into action. Here we go. And this is an excerpt from the Wayshowers Philosophy for context, provided by the Wayshowers College. So here we go. I am here to be all I can be. Divine living is the key. Whether I want to refine or outgrow something, I begin by making it a goal. Every day, every situation, I embrace my experiences as growth opportunity for it. After, I regroup with my helpers for ways to improve as a soul. When the next day or opportunity comes, I implement those improvements. I repeat this process with spirit until there is neither fear nor separation nor disease in what I do or feel until my energy is smooth. After that, I move on to a new spiritual goal. I know myself well. I know where I can play games with myself. It is time to let the divine shine. Truly, the only separation I have is the one I think I have. The universe is my playground, and the stars my kin. My need is to outgrow and move beyond limiting thoughts and patterns of who I am and what I have come to do. From mortality to immortality, from immortality to destiny. So, that excerpt for the spiritual theme of the month, the little tiny excerpt, one of the things I love about this particular one is that it really, to me, it captures really, and like really eloquently, the art of living day to day, the process of what we're all going through collectively. What I believe is the commonality of all of us, particularly the spiritual key number 3. I am here. Actually, no, it's the second one, I believe. I am here to learn and grow because planet Earth is like a school. That's getting into the big picture of things. And so, this beautiful paragraph here, this little excerpt here, just talks about that process of what it's like of refining. And that is something that everybody, it is what you have gone through at some point in your life, whether you realize it or not. What I appreciate about the college and my involvement with them is helped me to actually work through that process consciously with the tools that I have to practice day to day. And like many practices, it has its successes, but it also has its messes. But both are important and are necessary because it's the messes that leads to the successes. If I don't have my mess, how can I ever truly allow myself to succeed? For me, what comes up when I think about that, when I get into these thought patterns of, oh, I don't want to do this thing because what if I mess it up? What if I get it wrong? And I don't implement an idea I have to do, something that may involve people or my own personal projects, I may come up with an excuse not to implement that idea, to give it a chance to try, to give myself a chance to try it. And I think that's a very damaging thing that can prevent me from living my life. That's really getting into the mortality vibration. Because when I think about the energy of immortality, it's recognizing that I have nothing to lose here, but everything to gain. Because spiritual key number 1, I'm going to use the I. I am energy. I am energy. And everything here in the human experience, think this, I'm a spiritual being having human experiences. And these human experiences, many know it's temporary. So what gives? What's the point? My understanding is to prioritize what I take with me. And this goes back to key number 2. I'm here to learn and grow. We don't take the cars, the money, the prestige, the identities, the labels, meaning like, for example, like I'm Hispanic, I'm 33, male, etc. But those labels I don't take with me, right? Because as a soul, I have no color, no preferences, no orientation, no like beliefs type of thing. Like I just am. There's this is just oneness with all. Right? I don't have like I'm not this what human label as a soul. Can't put that on your core, who you are in your essence. When I look at the aspects of myself, right? My age, my race, all these. To me, those are just qualities of my those are aspects of my wardrobe, my human wardrobe. And at some point I'm gonna have to return it to the earth, and then I move on. And so, but the experiences that we have, lessons that we all go through, and what we put together for ourselves, that's what we take with us. And I will simply refer to that as spiritual real estate. And I believe that's what this excerpt is trying to emphasize, is prioritizing what it is you take. Sorry, for me, what I get from it is it's asking me to prioritize what I take with me, the learnings, the growth, the expansion. Because in those moments, think about those moments where you feel those growth moments, where in situations where you were perhaps stressed out or were really challenging, but then at some point it wasn't a challenge. I even encourage you to just think about that for a moment. What's an experience you've had, or what's an area in your life where you used to have trouble initially and it was a challenge and it was tough, but at this point now you're like a master. You're good at it. you know in some sense, you're an expert because of the experiences you've had. Nobody can take that away from you. That's already deeply built, solidified within you. Now, if you get that feeling, I want you to connect that feeling to immortality that stays with you for eons of time. I mentioned earlier, there's a saying that kind of going back to what I was talking about with like my experience with immortality with time. There's a saying, um, time is but a blink of an eye in the time span of eternity. You know, and I was just thinking about just tuning into those feelings of how things can feel kind of warped and weird and just, but yet that's, but that I would say they're set. I don't want to say sample, but those are just experiences that I know I've had that gives me that sense of timelessness. Or like as I mentioned earlier, when I go to the retreat, when I'm with like-minded people who have put this together for themselves and understand this, and what we create collectively in the containers, that even amplifies that feeling of timelessness. And for me, it feels I feel at ease. I feel chill, if you will. I feel relaxed. Sometimes I just feel like I'm floating, but not in a way that's kind of just like out there, but like I'm floating. I just feel light. And these are some of the things I think about how my team operates all the time, because obviously they're in spirit form. You and we're on the physical realm. And so this collective experience of us learning and growing, the importance of, for me at least, why I'm at this stage of my life, with my own worldview and how I carry myself. For me, it's a need. I understand this and I recognize this. And this, why there's this whole talk about growth, right? Maybe perhaps for you, it's like growth, 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 all this, da, 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 learning, growing, like it almost seems like it has to be a 24/7 thing. And it's usually not necessarily. When it comes to the learning and growing, one thing to understand is that as far as the 24/7 aspect to it, is that there's always, even when we're not conscious of it, we're always learning and growing. I think that's the big thing for that, at least what I've come to learn. And and when it comes to like really wanting to do for myself spiritually, I remember somebody shared with me, it's like, I don't need to spend 24/7 to be able to do the necessary to advance on a day-to-day basis. Right? I used to think like I have to do all this, or I have these complicating ideas to what it means to grow spiritually. When it boils, it's simple. Again, I refer to this passage I read to you to get to the simplicity of the process, because that really does a good job of boiling it down and distilling it to that process. Where it gets complicated, I know for me, where I get complicated is I get caught up in the nuances and the diversity of experiences that I have, and that I witness other people have, and all the things, and things can come up. But nevertheless, it doesn't take away from that. I have to be careful not to let the nuances and experiences to override the purpose of why we're here, and looking at things from a simple perspective. I mean, even for me, when it comes to like making sense of understanding my experiences because they're connected, it's essential for me to distill it down to its essence. What's the core of that? Because it's from those experiences that has enabled me to grow through some very tough challenges I've had in my past. And that's then definitely some related to my physical health. And if I didn't have this kind of practice built into me at that point in time when I went through a particular one a couple over a year ago, it would have crushed me deeply, and I would have suffered. I would have gone through a lot of unnecessary wear and tear. It would have been excessive. When I embody this art of going through day to day and learning and growing, I know that I will experience growing pains at some point, and that's okay and that's natural. Where it doesn't get natural is when I start to, because of my own patterns, right? It mentions from the excerpts, like I know when I'm playing a game with myself. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you can recognize yourself when you're BSing to yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You and I, we can lie to other people and tell them this, and that. But when it comes to looking at the mirror, can't lie. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I may not even look at myself in the mirror if I'm playing games with myself. But life happens such a way where I have to confront myself in the mirror. And so, and if people, and that's the thing I see, like if I see people playing games and whatnot, at some point life situations will happen so that they have to face themselves at some point. That's the beauty I see in this system, is that how it's there to support us in our endeavor of learning and growing, self-discovery, healing, all these things. At some point life situations will happen that I know, like for me, I'm saying it's from experience, that gets me to come back home to myself. Because there's only so much escaping and avoiding that I can do before I'm like, well, here I am. Can you relate with this? So I actually wanted to read something else in addition because it resonated so much with me. I want to give you some more juicy stuff to listen to take in, to think about, especially as it relates to the month of February, the energy of immortality. So for context, I was one of the things I do monthly is I attend a little monthly regrouping that's organized by my friend and mentor, and who also, it's like the president of the college. He does this. He puts it together for between 30 to 50 people online on Zoom. Everybody here, to work on themselves. And so we'll go through meditations related to the month, little excerpts, like kind of similar to what I'm doing here, in that setting. And I remember there was one particular reading that we did for this particular month that resonated so much with me that I want to take the time to actually share it with you. So it goes like this. Because I am eternal, so will be my problems until I change my ideas about them. That is why what I resist persists. Once I shift my focus to the bigger mission of my purpose, I will stop nourishing troubles. This one's pretty powerful in the sense, for me, something I've always learned when it comes to navigating, working through my own patterns, and also learning to discern my energy versus energy from the environment that I naturally pick up. We all naturally do. Because this happens. Like sometimes for me, when I get caught up in someone else's energy, or I know something has got me, or I feel like, I feel off, It's been an interesting dance and journey for me when it comes to like working through that. How can I work better with the energy I pick up from the environment? And one of the things that really puts it in perspective, when it comes to the energy and environment that's not me, the stuff that's negative usually, I mean, it's a mixture, right? But speaking on the negative energy in the environment, that's what I would call confusion. It's what, because there's a vibration of ignorance and separation with that and fear. When I found myself getting, caught, I remember I would look back on those experiences and kick myself in the butt, figuratively, of course, not literally. But I remember I'd beat myself up because I got caught in that or I feel some type of way. But here's the thing, when it comes to the negativity in the environment, it will always be there. And I'm not saying this to be pessimistic. I'm just saying this as a realist to be pragmatic about it. Just the reality of what's going on out in the environment, out in the world. It happens, right? It's part of reality. It's the current reality. Doesn't mean it should be, but it's the reality. Like negativity will be out there some shape or form. And not to say, and I think it's important that I don't look at it and judge it as bad, or I don't or I get so caught up in my dislikes about it, because the negatives can be useful, at least for me, for the growing process. So not to discredit that, not to like make it something it's not, but the negativity will always be there. It will always be there, the influence, because it goes back to immortality. The influences usually comes from other people. Remember, we're talking about the negative ones, right? And even other souls on the other side. Like that's going to keep being a thing. And if I keep getting so caught up in it, if I start making drama or a big deal about that when I feel off, I'm just feeding a leech, and it's going to keep doing it until I stop putting energy into it. And so when I find myself off, it's something that's always a reminder for me. I have to choose higher. I have to consciously choose better. If I don't, then I'll stick with the negative. I either put up with the crap or I'll accept the good, what nourishes me. And this is why I believe that all of us need to be a leader of ourselves. Because if I'm not leading myself, the way I understand energy, something in the environment will hijack my freedom, will hijack me. And it could be through stimulating my patterns, my conditioning. It could be your patterns, your conditionings. Something to consider and to think about. I need to consciously lead myself, because again, I've had experiences where if I'm not leading myself, I will start to gravitate towards others and look to others to make my decisions for me, when I know that I have that responsibility to myself. And this to me is talking about maturity here. This is what I've learned over the years of what it means to be mature, is knowing that I have a responsibility to myself and I need to take care of myself. In order to do that, I need to lead myself. Hell, that's a requirement for me to live my life. I need to lead myself. I'm at the forefront. I'm at the tip of the spear in me living my life and doing me. What I say for myself, I assume the same for you and everyone else. And this is something that I've learned and I'm always being reminded of time and time again. And I think for me, something that I've been thinking about for this month, a spiritual goal I was thinking about, and feel free to join me in this endeavor, is to be purpose driven. Because it's easy how for me, because of my patterns and conditionings, the habits, I can choose things lesser than my purpose. And then I start to wonder why I get caught up in stuff. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I blow my timing. I start feeling some type of way. I don't feel my best. And it's no wonder. What am I focusing on? What am I feeding? Because wherever your focus, your attention goes, you're put energy into it. You're feeding it. And you can feed a lie, something that's false, or you can feed something that's grounded in reality, in facts, and your knowingness and your intuitive sense. You know, I, rather than just like fantasy or some idea type of thing. So it's a powerful thing when you look at your life situations, when you look at everything yourself. When I look at everything, when I look at myself as a pattern, that really helps to simplify a lot of things, and it really helps me to approach things much more differently with a much more higher awareness. And I know for me, with all this awareness, the practice is really the key in all this, where I know I need patience because I understand a lot of what that excerpt was talking about, the Wayshowers Philosophy specifically. The art of day to day of refinement, implementing those improvements. Because there's times I put something together and haven't been implementing it much at all at times. And that's okay. This is why it's important to embrace, for me, my successes, great, but also embrace my messes where I'm like, at times I'm like hitting myself on the head again and again and again and again and again. I've been there. I'm sure you have. But then also I've outgrown some of those areas in my life where I was before hitting my head again and again and again. And I'm sure you have. So I share that to say we're not doomed. There's hope. And even though we're in the school, we're learning, we have all these things, all these variables in play here, we're all going to make it. And everybody's going to be okay. Because all these variables that happens in life, this is the human experience. But again, it's all temporary, my friend. It's all temporary. Once we leave as a soul, we detach ourselves from the physical vehicle, we move on out. And all the suffering, all the things like that, that'll stay here in this planet where it belongs, in this school. Those are all just means. The experiences, all the stuff, they're just all means. So thinking about, for you to consider, do you think would it be, or actually, how about this? How would your life look? What would your life look like, or what would it feel like if you prioritize more of what you take with you? The lessons, the growth, the intangible stuff, the stuff that you can't touch, can't touch with your fingers. You can't smell it or taste it, but you can feel it. Not physically, but you feel it within. What would your life look like? Do you see yourself implementing more, or perhaps, are there some things that are coming to your mind? Perhaps your spiritual helpers are sharing with you something that you can start implementing and start doing now. So that as you move through this month, you move with a path that's smoothed out rather than all these bumps. I think is an important thing for me when I've embodied all of this. Immortality, it's easy, it's easy to talk about it, but for me, why I think this month is going to be interesting is because, when I felt it, that vibration of immortality, there's a feeling of inner security in that. A feeling so secure that no matter what happens in life, when things may get hectic and turmoil, and I know especially with these times we're in, especially in our society, in the United States, I don't have to tell you much on that. Why it's essential to embody that vibration. Otherwise, from a practical perspective, I'm just going to start taking on these things, getting myself involved in things that none of my business. Because there are a lot of distractions out there that will take me away from my involvement in my life. And I have to be careful and be aware of those things that I might put energy into that's taking my involvement away. Because I think the only way to truly lose in life or to truly fail is giving up and not actually giving myself the chance to experience, to have the messes, embrace the messes. Again, that keeps coming up, at least for me. Embrace the messes. It's like give yourself the chance to live your life. And as I'm sharing all this, it's I think about why I think comfy is dangerous. Because when I feel comfy, I feel resistant to change. But change is all around. It happens day to day. And if I'm fighting that, then I'm just going to create a lot of unnecessary wear and tear, and just bringing about suffering. Unnecessary. But I'm bringing it upon myself. But that comfy energy, I have to let that go. And I have to be open and invite new things in my life as I'm progressing and moving through. And as I share this, think about it for yourself. What can you allow in your life this month for the purpose of helping you to tune in and feel the energy of immortality? Moving beyond the ideas and concepts and moving into the feeling, sinking into the feeling within yourself. Because once you have that feeling within yourself, like when I feel security, when I've developed, even when I've unfolded that and experienced for myself when I felt nervous, it's very empowering and it's very concrete. And I just want to bring us back to again what I mentioned earlier about spiritual real estate and why all this, the whole learning and growing is. Let's bring it back to that perspective, is so that we can, I'll say it in the eye, so that I can claim all that my life has to offer me, because I know it has all the beautiful things to offer me. Or I can just buy into and accept the crap. That's my choice, and it will always be there. Right? Think of mortality. The crap will always be there. The negativity will always be there. Or I can choose better. I can choose higher. I come back to my sense of purpose. And when I do that, all these beautiful chef's kiss, all these things start to come into my life. It's like as if waiting for me, for my permission to say, yes, I accept the great things. That's there for me. It's there for you. What will it be, my friend? What will it be? May your own divinity within shine outward. And this has been another episode of Spirit Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin Zapeta, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.